Roger Federer's agent called me and said, "Hey, do you want to surprise Roger Federer?" And I'm like, is this a prank call? Bill Gates and Roger Federer on the sidelines in between their exhibition game. And there's a video of Roger and Bill, like school kids, laughing, watching me, going, "Hey, look at the guy, you know."
He is the king of cheer. Cameron has for 29 years cheered on NBA Finals, Wimbledon. He's been at the US Tennis Open, Olympic Games. He's the crazy cheering guy, swinging shirts, ripping them off, surprising the crowd.
I was about to start a job, and the night before I was supposed to start, I quit. Something in me believed that this is what I was meant to do. Don't be afraid of being yourself all the time with everyone. Don't change.
Part of success is believing in yourself, and Cameron Hughes is the king of believing in yourself. That's what we're going to learn today. So, Cameron, how do you, after all the cheering and all this stuff, define success?
It's waking up every day knowing I have an opportunity to put a smile, share laughter, and create good vibes and energy with people. And whether it's at an event or just in life, like I've worked whole life to get to that point.
You know, when you look back at your story and you go back to your mom and everything like that, do you think that helped define your success, or how did it come to that, wanting to help people smile?
Yeah, I mean, my mom passed away when I was just turned, like, when I was 16, and she was all about joy and leading with the heart, Brad. And I know in life, like, I think that's a lot of what success is. If you lead with your heart, you know you're trying hard, you know you're giving your best, you know you care. And I care a lot about people. I care a lot about connection. And I think that my success in life has come from people realizing that he's you know, it's the biggest buzzword we know, but authentic, real, natural, you know, it's not an act. You know, when I perform at the big stadiums, I genuinely want people to have more fun and laugh and cheer and feel a connection to the community.
Is there a point where you think you chose to be successful in life?
Wow. I mean, I think there's a point where I just completely chose this direction. So yes, but like I didn't have a plan B. I was about to start a job out of university at a restaurant, and I had a great connection. I knew the president of the restaurant. It was a Tex-Mex place, big chain in Canada. And the night before I was supposed to start, I quit. I'm like, this is my road. This is what I'm meant to do. And it was a great bad decision, right? I went all in, and something, Brad, in me believed that this is what I was meant to do. I had no idea how, right? But I knew there was something in me that I had to choose this path because I'd had some success clues, right? I had some hits. And the more you get the hits, the more you believe, the more you put yourself out there.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of people won't back themselves. They will go for the corporate safe gig. What do you think it was that gave you the confidence to back yourself, to go your own way?
I don't say this to be joking, but I didn't have any talent. You know, like I'm right. I'm not like the guy that's like, you know, I'm not like the major numbers guy. I'm not an office guy per se that's going to be sitting there and analyzing stuff in a boardroom. That's not my brain. My dad also like worked in the public service in Canada. I grew up in Ottawa, the capital, and he chose the safe route, right? And so many of us, as we know, model the people that are around us. And I didn't want that route. And I think that was a great reminder. And also on that note, it's also why it took my dad a long time to go, hey, this is a great idea, Cam. You're going to kill it. Right? Hey, Brad, can you imagine that conversation? Hey, Dad, I think I'm going to cheer at stadiums for a living. Right?
No, it doesn't. You know, I know, like, I've got 5 kids. And so when they're looking for their passion, and there's the dad side of me, which is, well, you know, and then there's the other side of me, which is, yeah, cool, chase your dreams, go after it type thing. When you look at your success, because, you know, it's easy to be number one in a field if you're the only one doing it, but you're not really the only one doing it right now. What is it? Is there a formula for success that you think, or is there a method or stuff that's involved?
You know, I believe the first one for me, I really like strongly believe it's the showing up concept of like in early days of my career, we didn't have the internet like we do now. I was sending VHS copies of my tape to teams and organizations. I'm sure you're familiar with like those moments back in the day. And the answer was always no, or they wouldn't even respond. So I started to show up at events. I started to show up at the right events, not just to perform and show what the value I could bring, which was a big part of my success belief system, was that I also believed that I was bringing value to those teams, right? And eventually, as I started to study it a bit more and realize, like, what solution am I solving for them, right? On a Wednesday night at a sporting event, it's going to be a little quiet, but hey, do you guys need some extra energy? As opposed to in the early days, I used to say, I'm crazy, I'm funny, I'm nuts, I'm gonna. It's like, no, wait a minute. What are you helping them with? And my whole career changed when I found that path to asking better questions. I was too excited. I was like, hey, look at me, look what I can do, right? That probably doesn't surprise you about knowing me, but like, and then I started to see that teams needed more fun. They needed more energy. They needed their crowd to be more involved. I started to look at what teams needed, companies needed, organizations needed. And that's really helped me ask better questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So along the way of learning all of those things, what was some of the, like, I guess, mistakes or failures, and how did that lead to your success?
Well, yeah, I mean, it comes back to being too enthusiastic. I would just call teams and they'd call me and I'd call them right back and go, hey, I'm in. And I didn't take a deep breath to go like, wait a minute, what is it you're providing? And then the other big thing for me was like, what's your value? Like, you can't give it away, right? And we know as creative people, like and speaking, it's like you get so excited, you're like, oh, I'll put your hand up, I'll do it. And there was definitely times where I had to just do the I'll do it because I knew it was going to lead to something. But I had to really refine how I approached and maintain my own excitement for these opportunities. And then I had to get in there and had to be professional because when you're selling yourself as a guy that's adding energy and crazy and t-shirts and twirling, you've got to have the other side of you that's professional, right? It's, and we all know the expression, like, take what you do seriously, but not yourself. And the third thing is very, very important. And I've been living it, every event I do is be easy to work with, right? Don't be, I go on set when I used to host a lot of TV and I'd go, hey, everyone, before the shoot, I want you to all call me Diva. And it would immediately break the ice, right? People would be like, oh, okay.
You're that guy. Yeah.
This is for fun, and those are things that I've really tried to, have consistency on in my career to have this type of longevity.
I think there's one other thing that you discount on yourself is that you add more value than you're asked to add. Is that something you consciously do, or like you just seem to do way more than you're asked to do?
That's like, thank you for saying that. And you do recognize that. And the humble Canadian would say, oh, how, but I think that there's two parts to that. There's the big moment, like where we first met with the big powwow where everyone sees the moment. And then there's the behind the scenes, right? Where you give that kid, that fan, that extra 10 seconds as you're going back up the stairs to connect with them, as you're in the hallway, after the game, on social media. And that's what gets you hired back. That's what helps you build a community, right? It's not just the TikTok reel that blows up. That's just gets you noticed. But what gets you hired is that extra connection, that extra value there. And look, at the end of the day, they're hiring me to give energy. And when you get going and you get it back from the fans and the crowd, it's hard not to give it everything, right?
Yeah, I know you've given it everything so many times. I've seen you break bones, falling off things, do all that craziness. When you look at it though, your success, you defined yourself and you branded yourself. Is there any, like, what's the magic to branding yourself when you're so different to everything else that people see?
Well, I mean, I think it's, that's the $1 million question of like, no, there's a lot of acts doing fun stuff at NBA games, at the WNBA game last night. And there's the halftime shows, there's music, there's DJs, there's all that, right? I mean, for me, it's the trust factor that team knows on Friday night at whatever it was, a Toronto Blue Jay game with 30,000 people, They know that Cameron Hughes is going to bring his show, his experience, his fandom, and he's going to create an insane energy, win or lose, right? And if you're a halftime act that comes out to the NBA game, WNBA game, you've got 6 minutes on the court, you're out. I'm full game. You got me for the whole game, right? And I think that that's been what's been really good for my career, and also challenging health-wise to give that much energy, right?
But you built a niche, right? It didn't exist before you. Is there something that you've consciously done to build that niche, or do you think it's just something that naturally happened?
I think it naturally happened. I mean, I got lucky, obviously, I'm sure we have lots of different variations of that word, but I got lucky breaks, which is true, right? The scoreboard fell in Buffalo, and it was on the ice, and they didn't have anything to entertain the fans. So my first U.S. gig, the owner of the Buffalo Sabres called me and said, "We need you because of this." So he knew the value, right? We need his energy. We don't have a video board. So that was like a wake-up call for me going, well, wait a minute. Look what the value you're providing these teams. And that's when I started to charge, to realize, like, you got to charge more, I have a quick funny story about that. When I was starting my career, I didn't know what to charge, right? Like I didn't know how to. And I remember the first gig I ever got paid was $250. And then I got some national attention in the media world. And I came back to Ottawa after being in Toronto, the Canadian media. And this team asked me to come and do a game. And I go, yeah, $1,000 per game. And the guy laughed so hard, my ears hurt. And he goes, Brad, you're never going to make that in your career. And 5 years later, like about 5 years ago, I'm on the sidelines with that same very guy. And I was like, how you like me now? And it wasn't a show off thing. It was, believe in yourself thing and believe in your value.
You're on the Big Success Podcast. We're going to be back, and Cameron's going to talk to us about social media, about cheering on yourself and believing in yourself.
In 30 minutes a day for 30 days, 30X Business will take you through the exact hard-won business principles that Brad Sugars has personally developed over the past 30 years as an entrepreneur, investor, and business advisor. Join Brad and his team and 100 other entrepreneurs who want to start building a successful business today.
And you're back. Make sure you're on subscription with us. Cameron, you've got to do some amazingly fun things. Olympic Games. Let's start there. How do you get an Olympic Games jazzed up?
You just look at I go into the audience before a game, and I sit in an empty arena, and I either have my headphones on or not, and I watch an empty crowd, empty stadium, and I realize, like, oh, this is going to be full soon. You have an opportunity to make their night extra special, right? And that is the incredible way to start. Like, and then I change my state, I get the energy going, and I go, all right, like, even though there's like at the NBA Finals or the Olympics or any of these cool places, like they still need energy. You've been to tons of sport events. The fans can't maintain that energy, right? So I come in and say, hey, let's find a way to balance that out and for me to be there at the right time.
Yeah. When you were doing, I know you did Roger's special event, but when you first did it with Roger Federer and he started looking and cheering and pointing to the t-shirt dancing guy, how did, like, because that brand took you to get asked to do those things. Is there some special secret to that, or is it just doing the best you can get you back?
Well, the US Open, I reached out to them through a friend and said, hey, I think I can bring you value. And they were looking for, here's the really important thing, I believe, is the USTA, Brad, in 2010, I didn't know this, right? They were looking to do something different for their fans, for their audience, for their customers, okay? So right there, the door's a bit open, right? But I sent them my video and my tape, and they were like, not really what we had in mind. But I convinced them to give me a chance. And for $1, I went and performed at 25,000 people. The McEnroe brothers come in from the ESPN break, talk about me. So I gave it to them. I had done this Olympics the same year. I was doing the NBA, but I knew that I had to get in the door. So sometimes it's not about the money, it's about the opportunity. 8 years later, I've done the US Open, and then Roger Federer's agent called me and said, hey, do you want to surprise Roger Federer? And I'm like, is this a prank call? Like, what are you talking about? Right? What do you say? Yeah, that's. I think I'm available. So I'm literally at his charity event in Seattle. Bill Gates and Roger Federer on the sidelines in between their exhibition game. I get up and do my bit. I'm twirling shirts, and there's a video of Roger and Bill like school kids laughing, watching me, going, "Hey, look at the guy," you know. And he came to my locker after, and I'd never met him, but he said, "I love watching you at the U.S. Open." And Brad, I was like, "Well, Roger, I love watching you too." Right? And he looked at me. He said something to me. He looked at me, and his agent. I donated my time to be there. It was a charity, right? And his agent told Roger. He looked at me in the eyes, and I've never forgotten the look of one of the most famous athletes giving me that respect, that time, that gentlemanly approach to that real connection. And I've learned so much about that extra. Just give it a bit more, right? Not because you're forcing it, because it's the right thing to do, right? And then last year, as you know, I performed at his last match, and Rafa Nadal and him are watching me going, "It's the U.S. Open guy." And then Roger goes, "I hope he doesn't take his last shirt off." And Rafa's like, "I don't think he will." you know.
But that is a benefit of your business. You've chosen a job, a business, a career where you get to do what you love, but you also get to go to like the Cleveland Cavaliers. You were with them forever. The Vegas Golden Knights forever. Like you've got to go to all the things that you love too. People don't believe that you can create a career doing what you love and get to travel and do. What gave you the knowledge that you could do that? Or is it just something you had to learn and believe in?
I think it's a good combination, right? It's a combination of not having a plan B, back to, repeating myself, but believing the value. And I have something in me. I don't know what it is, like the resilience, persistence, elegant persistence I have. Even a team that you've worked with for 10 years, and this will probably hit true to you with a lot of your customers and clients and people, they are so busy making other decisions. They're not thinking we got to hire Cameron Hughes or get that DJ for that game. But I found a way in my career to work the room, to network, to build important relationships. And, I had a Zoom for my birthday a couple of years ago, and the people that showed up, I mean, I could cry telling you, they showed up because not just I added value to their career and their game and made them look good, but because we created a real friendships, and that keeps the longevity going. That keeps the showing up in this new cities going. And then it leads to a lot of other cool stuff, right? I mean, as we know.
Yeah, I want to get back to how you build great relationships later, but I want to focus in on one thing you've done exceptionally well, and that is leverage the media, leverage the TV, the social media. What are some of the absolute must-dos to succeed, first of all, with social media side?
Post the real thing. I don't over edit it. Sometimes I don't even edit it. I'll give you a great example. I did the Atlanta Falcons game. I mean, that just gave me goosebumps. 75,000 people. All I want is that aisle to be empty. They're paying me a lot of money to fly there, to give 90 seconds, and the entire aisle is packed with people. Right? It's a gong show, man. It's like people ask, do I get nervous? I go, I get nervous if there's going to be anyone in the aisle, if the video is going to come to me, and if the music's going to play, they're going to play the right song. And I posted that video. It had 16 million views. 16. Because it wasn't me trying to create something that wasn't real or didn't happen. So that to me is number one. Number two, I am very proud of myself for responding to 95% of people. 90-ish, probably 95. I try, whether it's a DM, whether it's a comment, look, at some point it's impossible, right? There's some videos that have had more traction. I take pride in that. And the other thing, man, you get lucky. I really believe this. You do get lucky with some of the videos that people decide to share, right? And the one video of me in Vegas, and you were probably at that game, but with Billy Idol 6 years ago, that video has 450 million views. And I have the receipts. And people are like, the comments, the comments are unbelievable, And I think it's, and and they're not post tagging me. A lot of them aren't, right? So it's not necessarily building my brand all the time. And when they do tag me, you get thousands more. Mel Robbins tagged me once and I got like thousands of new followers. But so I think that social media and the media thing is like, because I'm a surprise factor, right? So that's a really interesting point. That's a big part of my value proposition. We're going to surprise your fans. Or when I go to speak at an event, they're not going to tell them that I'm coming. And so I have to play that off a bit with how I promote myself. But then like I said, you get lucky with the videos, and then the media picks up on it because they haven't seen a guy my age, size, dancing that badly before in public.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I remember the first time ever I saw you doing the dance thing, and I'm going, this guy's crazy. This guy's nuts. And then the second or third game, I worked out, I've actually bought him here. He's not just a fan, even though you are a crazy fan, but that whole thing. When you look to the media side of it, not just the social side, but the media side of it, are there any things that you do that make sure you get the media and keep getting asked back on media?
Well, I mean, it's a balance, because it's like, I was on the Today Show at the Olympics, and I was so prepared. That's the other thing. I was so ready for some reason. It was one of the best interviews I've ever done to this day. All 5 of the co-anchors, me at like 4:30 in the morning because of the East Coast time, that they asked me back on the Friday to come back for their wrap-up show. And then suddenly that creates a relationship with their producers. Hey, I'm in New York for the US Open. What's up? They didn't bring me in for the Today Show, but you know what they did? They took the clip from me at the US Open, right? So there's not always the big bang, so to speak, but there's the credibility. There's we know that guy. Oh, he's a nice guy, right? And I think that sort of equity that you have in delivering fun and laughter and cheer, as you know what I do, people want to be part of it. And I think that especially these days, they just want that, I'll tell you that real quick. I had someone, a data analyst, studied what the 3 key words were, most used words in one of my biggest posts. Take a wild guess what they were. 3 words.
Fun, laugh, happy.
Energy, fun, and love.
I was close. All right, I got one.
That was pretty good. Right? And so that's what I'm delivering. And all these media outlets want more of that. So, I mean, at the right place at the right time, it happens. And when I launched my book, what did everyone want during COVID? They wanted laughter, energy, fun, and love.
Love it. Big success. Cameron's going to teach us more about relationships and managing them and using them to grow your belief in you.
For 30 years, Cameron Hughes has ignited crowds at events across the globe. His relentless optimism, infectious cheering, and unbridled dancing have delighted and energized unsuspecting crowds, lodging Cameron's indelible spirit in over 30 million memory banks. To learn more about Cameron Hughes, please visit CameronHughes.tv.
And we're back. Cameron, I got to ask, one of the fundamentals I know about you is that you're phenomenal at building relationships. What are the top 2, 3, 5 things that you do to build great relationships?
Don't be afraid of being yourself all the time with everyone. Don't change. Be yourself consistently with all of the executives, whether they're the owner of a team, Brad, or the VP or the intern you're working with. I've worked with teams where, I have the intern's number, I have the owner's number, I have the VP's number. Treat them all the same. That's my first gut reaction to your question. Be grateful for the relationships. Remember stuff about them because you care, and I do. I've done this at 1,600 events. I don't pretend to have a relationship with everyone I've ever performed with, right? But you know me that I have certain relationships that are, really valuable. I send thank yous. I get like a migraine if I forget to do that, like within a month, because I just believe that someone gave me an opportunity to create that thing from 25 years ago when I was going, can I make a business out of this? Should I go get that job back at the restaurant? Right? So thank you for giving me that shot. And can I just add something there, Brad? Back to that idea, the fundamental idea of taking the shot, which is Are we doing something different for our customers, our audience, our fans? So whether it's me or the guy with the dog, the juggler, the whatever it is, what are you doing, right? And so when someone gives me a shot to, I love it. Look how lucky I am, right?
Well, hey there, and thanks for listening. I've noticed that 78% of you are brand new, which means you haven't hit the subscribe button yet. By subscribing, you help us bring on even better guests, better quality content, and serve you better with even more podcasts. So please hit that subscribe button. It only takes a second. It makes a huge difference. If you support us, we're going to support your success and help you achieve big success together. Yeah. You know, when I see one thing you do that I'm not sure you even notice is that you reach out a lot in relationships. Is that a conscious thing? Is it, how do you plan it? What do you do with that you're always reaching out to people?
I love connection. It's like this. It's, I don't do it because it's like, hey, it's Thursday, you should reach out to Tracy. I do it because I'm like, hey, how's Tracy? You know, or I just did this cool event and I thought of her, or I saw a picture, send it to them. I'll take the extra time and go, hey, like I thought of you, you know, and I mean, man, I'll tell you, and it's real, it's deep, it's just true. I love people, man. That's it. I love people. And this girl wanted to date me and she's like, I'm not into sports. I go, don't worry, I like people.
When you look at cheering for yourself, and I think that because, you know, you're a cheer leader per se for crowds and bringing the energy and that sort of stuff, what does it take to be a cheerleader for you?
You know, repeating it, but it's good. It's like believing in what you're doing. Like,
how do you do that though, Cameron? Like, it's easy to say, I believe in what I'm doing. Is there a structure to that? Is there something you got to, how do you get to believe in it at that level?
Yeah, I mean, that's my second book, I think. But no, I mean, it's such a powerful question. I think it's like, I think it's like, maybe this is Hallmark, but I'll go there. Maybe it's just opening your heart a bit more to possibility and not being afraid of the failure, not being afraid of the no. Like, man, I moved to Hollywood to become an actor and a performer to this. And everyone's like, hey, man, sorry, you don't have the Ryan Seacrest abs or the white teeth or the body. And then how many teams have rejected me. But like, I had to open my heart a bit more to the no, right? And so every time I got the yes, I had to look at it and go, how did you get the yes, Cam? And that helped me believe in myself, you know, and that helped me believe that I was doing something good. And then I was getting money for it. Like, what are you talking about? You know, and that became a muscle. And I completely agree with you. A friend of mine said to me, I called him on his birthday and he spent the whole thing talking about how he's like, Cam, I can't believe how much you put yourself out there. You're just constantly putting yourself out there. And there are times when you're like, I don't know if I can do it, but I do it when I want, not because I have to do it, because when I want to. And I think that's helped me fundamentally be consistent with who I am as a person, not trying to be someone else, you know? I don't know if that answered your question. I mean,
you know, if I was to watch what I see, it's you're quick to let go of the negatives, but you dwell on the positives. I think it's a big part of what I see in your nature around things and just around people. You dwell on their positives. You comment about their positives pretty much all the time. I know when you come to our house and you hang out, my wife's always like, I feel better when Cameron leaves, you know, because you dwell on people's positives. I think that's a big part of it. I want to flip just for a second. You've watched Roger, you've watched Stanley Cup Finals, NBA Finals. What's the difference between the winners and those that come second, those that aren't there? I mean, you've been at so many amazing finals. How do the winners win consistently?
I really, you know, my first reaction to that is they're having a lot of fun. I know that sounds like cliche, but like, you know, you were at the Stanley Cup Finals. You watched those guys as they were doing it. Yes, they're intense. Yes, they're professional, but I was part of the Cleveland Cavaliers run and I watched their unity and it was joy and fun they were having on and off the court to the point where I think it was 5 or 6 years later, I saw pictures of Kevin Love's wedding Every guy in that team from that game, from that year, was at his wedding, which shows you what? The connection, which was having fun. And look, we know that when Roger stepped on the court at Wimbledon, he was on a mission. But I still believe when they take the layers off, these guys are having fun and have the right spirit about the game, right? The game. And deep down, like, look what I do. I create fun, right? So that's the winning. That to me is the winning method, because win or lose at the end of the game, hey, I had fun last night. That was fun, right?
Yeah, like if we leave a game and even if you lost, your team lost and you had a good night, it's a big thing. You'll go back again and again and again. I feel like that fun aspect of it is kind of like that one golf shot that you hit and you go, yeah, I'm coming back, I'm doing this again type thing. How do you, as a person, Cameron, manage the business side of it as well? Because I think this is important for people to understand. It's not just the stage and the fun thing. There's a whole business back end to it, a manager, the team, all of that sort of stuff. How do you handle all of that?
Yeah, I've had different phases of that, Brad. When I first started off, I didn't know what I was doing. And then I got a booking manager who represented like Little Elvis and all these characters. And he was like, there's a business. So I had an agent in booking, and then I had the agent for my TV career, and then a manager, and then a publicist. And then now it's like me and like specific people for specific things I need, whether it's management or publicity or lawyer or agent for, I'm in Europe right now and I'm doing a gig and I have a manager in Europe now, and they handle like next level. It's their manager, agent, publicist almost, I think I've had to learn how to give those tasks to people that are better at it than I am. And when you are, it's an interesting thing. And I it's a deeper conversation, but when I know the VP of the team or the company, do they want to hear from someone else or they want to hear from me? Right. But I then have to learn to let go. Right. I'd be curious as to you. I mean, look at your relationships. Like, when do you give it away? Right. Take it away. Like, let someone else do it. Right. And so as a creative person who's excitable, I'm trying to get better at that. And that's also who I am, though. I knock on the door and they answer because it's me, not because it's someone else.
Yeah, look, you've got to open the door for your team, I think, every single time. Final question, buddy. What's the best advice or the best quote you ever heard on the subject of success?
Okay. Show up, get up, and never give up.
Show up, get up, and never give up. Where did that come from?
I wrote that from my book.
So your best advice is self-advice. Excellent. Love it. Cameron Hughes, the king of cheer. He's here with us on Big Success. We'll be back next week with more of your success.
You've been listening to the Big Success Podcast with the #1 business coach in the world, Brad Sugars. To learn more about how to achieve business and personal success, as well as how to level up or listen to past episodes, visit www.bradsugars.com.